Welcome back to the Anime Club. So how does it feel to actually know the characters when you're watching a movie?
Honestly, it was a little odd. I mean, like, literally 10 minutes in, I was just like, hey, wait, is that the girl from the last movie?
You didn't even recognize the two main characters are the same person.
Like, I assume the rest of you, like, knew that it was her, but, like, the jacket. The red moto jacket.
I love that design.
Oh, shit, the red Sherpa moto jacket. It's hers from the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Oh, man, I just realized that. Holy fuck,
didn't
Knuckles.
realize that. I just remembered the yukata in her face.
Holy fuck, Knuckles. Yeah, but I didn't recognize her at all. Mostly because I didn't actually remember any of the characters from movie number one.
Characters. They're just moving across the screen for action's sake in movie one.
Yeah, you don't really get any characterization. You get a lot more here.
This movie is all characterization.
Yeah, but unfortunately, I will say that if you don't speak Japanese, one of the concepts is a little hard to grasp because the character Shiki has, she's essentially has dissociative identity disorder with a male Shiki and a female Shiki living in her body. And the way that they choose to do it, at least on Verve in the subtitles, is when they're referring to female Shiki, it's in all caps, or is that male? Well, one of the Shikis
male is all caps.
Okay, so the male's name is in all caps, and then the female's isn't. But the problem is they don't actually label which lines of dialogue come from which Shiki, and if you don't understand Japanese pronouns, you have to try to suss it out through context
Funny
clues.
thing is, that's not actually an adaptation of Japanese pronouns. The Japanese pronouns were just not adapted at all.
Yeah.
Because you really can't adapt them. We don't refer to ourselves in the first person with pronouns
That's
very
what
often.
I'm saying. I'm saying that rather... See, my solution to that, right, would have been just have, like, the two characters, when they speak, have their lines done in different fonts. Or, like, one in italics, one in non-in-italics, or one in italics, and one in caps. Because it would have delineated who was speaking which lines, and I feel like that would have aided our understanding of the character and how the character was developing, because otherwise you had to kind of use context clues to suss out who was speaking about who, like was Shiki talking about Shiki, or was Shiki talking about Shiki.
What the all caps and the non all caps was more supposed to do was for the emphasis, because they put different emphasis on different syllables.
But it made it even harder sometimes to figure out who was talking. You know, when just randomly you'd see Shiki's name capitalized. So I will say, I did have that problem with that, because I feel like that was a very cool character thing, the whole dissociative identity disorder. But then you really are struggling to understand it.
It's hard to suss out when you're not able to speak Japanese.
Yeah.
Actually, like, toward the end, I did kind of notice that their voices between the two personalities were ever so slightly different. Right
If you can catch that if you have a basic understanding of Japanese, you can catch that male Shiki speaking a little bit harsher than female Shiki is.
But once again, I mean, you just have to... that's hard to do for everyone.
It's just like the tone of like how they were actually speaking right there. One was like a little bit more harsher in terms of like how it sounded.
But I'm not saying that it wasn't. I'm just saying that is such a small difference that most viewers won't hear it.
What Vorn is saying here is learn Japanese, scrub.
Or
what Vorn's saying here is maybe we should have someone who actually speaks Japanese helping us, scrub.
I did when I could.
It's not actually like learn Japanese. It's more of just... There's a lot of nuances there that are very, very little and slight that you just aren't going to notice that quickly. Because it took me until like the end of the movie to really notice it fully.
I'll say this now, this isn't going to be as big a deal in the movies going forward, so it's not something that it's not...
God damn it, Saki! Phone over shoulder, now!
Was that our new phone in the basket, is chuck your phone over your shoulder?
Yes.
Alright, well... It's not something you guys you'll really have to actively worry about. I think it's a problem pretty exclusive to this particular film.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't expect Japanese media to be perfectly catered to an English audience. I'm sure it was a lot more understandable in the original Japanese to native speakers. Because, I mean, it's the same thing with voice actors. I mean, sometimes when you've listened to, like, voice actors, you can pick out a certain voice actor in anything they're in just because you start to recognize their voice, even when they're slightly changing it for different roles.
It's almost the voice actor dub versus sub problem in reverse, because normally with the dub and sub, the reason why a lot of people prefer a sub is not because the voice acting is always universally better, but because the fact that you don't understand the language means it's harder for you to pick out the nuances of how something's supposed to be pronounced, so it doesn't bother you as much. Whereas here, that might have actively helped in the dub if you had someone speaking in two different tones to be able to pick it out easier.
Yeah, so I mean, like, small nitpick. And then So we got a lot more on the male character, who we barely saw at all.
He was in a coma most of the last movie.
Yeah, in the first movie, he just wasn't present, really, as like a character.
Here, arguably, he was the focal character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And there's, some side characters, and there's obviously a kind of series of murders going on in the background. I think, 7 by the end of the movie?
I think so.
Yeah,
7.
we got 7.
Yeah. And they're all horribly gruesome and different. Every single one is different, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Like we were looking, like one of them, the one that I kind of got excited over, which maybe I shouldn't have in retrospect, but it was very interesting. He had a yin and yang carved into his body, not just like carved in with a knife, but someone took the time to like skin the black part of the yin and yang off of him, leaving like a dot of skin and then the rest in flesh, which I thought was really cool because honestly, serial killers leaving identifying marks like that is kind of rare these days. A lot of serial killers don't necessarily have such a blatant MO or weirdness to them. Mm-hmm. And then a little later, they said that it was in a
I can't say it.
Fly out or something like that.
It looks like a swastika because it's probably one of the things the swastika is derived from.
Yeah. So it's like a, I think it's flout or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's essentially an upright swastika with the angles going to the right.
Something like that.
Because the other version of it is where the angles go to the left, and that's called a gamion. And it's not based on the Buddhist symbol, but it's based on a symbol that's typically used in Christianity in Europe and for coats of arms and that sort of thing. So it's not based on a swastika, but it's also not based on the Buddhist thing. It's based on an entirely different thing. But it does mean that essentially the dude's like body was strung up like a swastika. And then there was that other murder they talked about where like the person had cut off his hands and feet and sewn them to one another, which was very Rob Stark, to be honest. I liked that. And then there was obviously the one that we saw last was the decapitation with the frankly ridiculous idea of an arterial spray going so far up into the air and then raining down directly on Shiki, looking like bloody rain for a significant amount of time, while it also trickled down like between the cobblestones of a path like 20 feet. Once again, completely unrealistic, but very cool. I do love my gruesome murder mysteries and documentaries.
I mean, but also in fairness, Hollywood's not also known for doing things like that with ridiculous amounts of blood spurting.
Exactly.
Yeah. Blood is something you kind of have to exaggerate because otherwise you lose the dramatic effect you want.
Yeah, because not a lot of people realize that the body doesn't really have that much blood, and unless you hit like one of the big arteries, it's not really going to spurt outwards. And even if it does on like a big artery, it's going to be more of a pulsing thing because it's going to pulse along with your heartbeat, which means it is very quickly going to get a lot weaker.
Yeah.
And it's very rarely going to spray, but, nuance, I understand the dramatic effect of blood spurting. Maybe Bloody Rain was a little excessive, but I understand the dramatic effect.
Yeah.
Like, Bloody Rain is an anime thing at this point.
Yeah. Like, a fucking... Bloody Rain is, like, I think it's one of the nicknames for one of the villages in Naruto. Yeah, the Rain Village is sometimes called the Bloody Rain Village or something. And there's also the Bloody Mist Village there, so, common tropes. But I actually really liked the murder plot in this one.
I like the spin that it's left very vague where it could be, the main character doesn't think it's Shiki, but every sign points to it's Shiki, the main female character of the previous movie, killing these people.
But we also don't get confirmation at the end one way or another if she actually did do it. Like, we know that she does go a little cuckoo finally at the end and try to kill him, but she obviously doesn't succeed.
I mean, we know she's crazy.
Yeah, she may not have been the killer here. We don't know, which is pretty cool, It's like a fun whodunit.
Yeah. Although we definitely have to say, the boy was thinking with a dick in his brain.
Not really. Like, we made the joke. We made the joke that he was thinking with, like, his dick, right? Or, like, his nether yaya, because he was, like, tracing her around.
But he wasn't really horny throughout
He's not
any
horny.
of that.
Like, he's not going to, like, date her or something. It's just Shiki's his friend, or he's trying to make her his friend.
Yeah.
And he genuinely just doesn't believe that she's the murderer, He just wants to be friends with her.
She sums it up best in a line there. He's an idiotic optimist.
Yeah, like, I don't think he's thinking with his dick, but he's definitely very naive and trusting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll give you that one.
Yeah. I mean, if he was horny, I probably would have been less happy about this plot. I actually liked that he wasn't horny. And at the end, it was really heartwarming that like he goes and visits her every week on the same day with flowers because, you know, he still considers her his friend. Like, he doesn't know what made her go crazy and want to kill him, but she's still his friend, and he still thinks of her that way, and that was really cute. You know, especially because, you know, from movie number 1, we know that later on she's not in the hospital anymore.
Yeah.
And I presume they're working together.
Yes.
He's not in a
movie
coma all the time.
No.
Yeah, that was just that one specific movie. Yeah.
We haven't figured out the arm thing yet, though.
Well, the arm thing hasn't happened.
That's a future plot point.
Yeah, the arm thing has happened in the intervening time between the end of this movie and the start of the first one.
This series does jump around a little, but the movies tend to have self-contained plots or plots that are like that you can watch pretty self-contained.
Okay.
So it's sort of like how Indiana Jones works.
Yeah, because you know the second Indiana Jones movie happens way before the first.
There is an overrunning plot, but for the most part, these are meant to be consumed individually. That's why I didn't submit this one along with the others, because they aren't really meant to be viewed as a single experience. Because they were released as individual novels.
So, I mean, it's interesting. We've definitely been introduced to a little more of a story, especially when you combine it with movie number 1 and what we know now, and what we know must have happened between the two movies, like her arm being switched out to whatever the fuck it is in the first movie, mechanical or puppet, you know, and her being awake again.
One of the aspects I like most of this movie, though, is if you were to watch this without knowing that it was in that wider Fate universe, you wouldn't. This would work just fine on its own as a random mystery story.
To be fair, the first movie would work outside of Fate as well.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but that one has like all the ghosty elements. Like this one doesn't have any real supernatural elements to it at all.
Yeah, this one's very down to earth. Like this is just an actual serial killer.
Yeah.
Also, I do wonder, like, was the guy from the first, like, murder running away that got hit by the truck, and, like, I don't understand.
He wasn't serial killer, it didn't look like.
No, that was, I know that was a victim, but, like...
No, he wasn't a victim of the serial killer. He died because he was hit by a truck, but that's probably what triggered whoever the killer was to start killing or something.
Well, and then Shiki found him and just was fascinated with his blood there.
Okay.
So it's probably what triggered Shiki.
Because that's what they're going for there, is they're trying to make you think, to consider whether or not Shiki might be a serial killer in the the Elizabeth Bathory sort of way, like, became fascinated with blood, like where she puts it on her lips.
Yeah, because, the getting hit by a car does not fit the serial killer's MO, and it's very rare that serial killers differ from their MOs, like, so much, like, in a series of crimes, especially, like, a crime spree like this. So either if Shiki did it, that was the trigger event, like somebody died and she saw it, and that triggered the psychosis, or the serial killer was killing, and then coincidentally, her seeing this other dead body that wasn't killed by a serial killer triggered the psychosis. Either way, it's the triggering event, it's just whether or not Shiki's the killer.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. But I think that was genuinely just a Isekai Kun moment.
Whoever that poor unfortunate soul is now in another world.
He's probably a Goblin Slayer Isekai, to be honest.
Ooh-wee.
I hope he's a female villager in Goblin Slayer.
And maybe he got lucky, maybe he was an Ishizoku Isekai.
Yeah, or slime.
Yeah.
Or something fun, you never know.
Most of the time, probably not going to be fun.
No.
You never know.
Yeah, he could have been dropped in as one of the basic villagers into Overlord.
Yeah. I mean,
if you're far away from Ainz, that's actually pretty okay.
He's either in a better or worse place now. That's what matters.
Yeah.
There's no middle ground. It's either better or worse.
Yeah. So, you know, I'm looking forward to seeing... I assume one of the movies is going to cover the intervening time between these two movies?
Yeah, I actually don't know which movies take place before the first movie, so...
Okay.
Not off the top of my head.
Okay, well then
you will get stuff sort of in that middle section for sure, though.
Okay. Well then we're gonna have, I guess, a fun time going through the rest of these movies.
Yeah.
We'll take us through them slowly.
With that being said, I think we have Waifu Wars.
Yeah.
Yes.
Waifu
Wars. Waifu Wars. Waifu Wars.
Realm.
I honestly was There was, I mean, we saw the red-haired office lady like briefly in this one.
Yeah.
I'll just go with her.
Toko.
Just 'cause yeah.
Okay, knick-knack.
I have to pick Shiki because Shiki is one of my favorite characters in all of Type Moon, so.
Warren?
None, because I ain't stick my dick in crazy.
I think I'm gonna go with the dad.
The detective guy?
Yeah, detective dad.
He's either a dad or an uncle.
Either way, he
Yeah.
seems pretty cool.
I think we actually saw the dad in like the back of the car with like the mom during the police ride back.
I mean, either way, he seems like a pretty cool dude. I don't know if we'll see more of him, but he seems cool.
I wouldn't call him cool. He's sharing like information of a murder with a
He's chill.
Yeah, he's
Also,
chill. It's
you get the
fine.
idea there that Mikia is very interested in, like, police work and investigative work.
Yeah, and maybe he wants to like groom his son/nephew to like join the force with him so he can work together. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, okay.
I mean, he does end up, I mean, sort of, there is an investigation team by the end of this, so
Yeah.
he's probably heading it after he graduates.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh, I guess we'll see you next time with our free thoughts. Bye, everyone.